Welcome everybody to a WTFC Summer Sessions. Today I have Kelly from Loblaws. Would you like to do an introduction for yourself?
Sure. My name is Kelly Cooper. I'm a human resources business partner with Loblaws. I support our transportation fleet nationally. So from Surrey through to Halifax, we have quite a great fleet of drivers, and I'm happy to support them and the team that works with them.
Amazing. Do you mind if I ask how many drivers you all have?
I should have probably double checked, but let's say right around 500 drivers or so.
Wow. Wow, that is wild. What was your introduction into transportation? How did you end here?
So I came here unexpectedly. So I did
Okay.
not plan to have a career in transportation or even in human resources. I had other
Hmm.
career plans. I was going to go to be a teacher, but then life changed and opportunity became available, and I ended up in a role supporting our warehouse in Cambridge, Ontario, and
Hmm.
that also incorporated a fleet of drivers. Throughout the time that I've been here, I was given opportunities by one of our business leaders in transportation to get involved in some different projects and negotiating collective agreements and that kind of thing, which really opened my eyes and provided me this great opportunity to learn and grow. I always enjoyed working with the drivers. We do have a great fleet of drivers across the board. And one of my favorite things is actually just having conversations with our drivers.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, the majority of them are based out west. So I don't get a great chance to connect with them in person. But anytime I am traveling, or if they happen to come through our site here in Cambridge, then I love to just be able to have an in-person conversation with them.
Mm. I love that. It is all about connecting with them. Tell me a little bit about your transition from warehouse into logistics. So you started in the warehouse doing what specifically?
It was within an HR function, so it
Okay.
was supporting someone administratively, recruiting, some performance management, compensation, that type of thing.
Okay. And then you started with some small individual projects within transportation. You just kind of started to
Absolutely.
like them, or how did that go?
Yeah, so it was, we'd had some different focuses throughout the business over the course of the many years that I've been here. And through that, they looked for HR support. And like I said, our business leader, I kind of consider him to be a bit of a sponsor to me, provided
Hmm.
me those opportunities to get involved with a different project work and make a bit of a difference. So that was really interesting. And like I said, it also gave me that opportunity to learn more about our business and start to realize how diverse it was. By having that involvement as we started growing our fleet in Western Canada with some cross border work, which we've been doing for not quite 4 years now. I became the primary point of contact from an HR perspective. And as I said, through that opportunity, a tremendous opportunity to learn.
Mm.
We had only been in Canada before, so understanding cross-border work, the various legislations and requirements going into the United States. It certainly opened up a whole different world than what I was used to with what you typically think of with a Loblaw driver as making a delivery to one of our retail stores, whether it be, locally, Zehrs or superstores, No Frills, et cetera, across the country.
Mm, you should know Zares is a significant portion, and Loblaws too, of my childhood memories. Going through and picking up a cookie and visiting the lobster tank, and like a little bitty baby piece of cheese from the cheese. Like it's very cemented in there. But
Yeah.
that's funny. I think that grocery stores are a significant piece of most kids' memories, and it's funny to hear you talk about it and think about that. But I'm curious from a twofold perspective. I've got two questions for you. As the employee who was kind of starting to dip their toes in transportation, what would you recommend to somebody who's considering that, just starting to work on some projects like that, but doesn't necessarily know what they're getting themselves into, know if it's going to be of value. But then on the flip side, if you have a manager who's seeing someone and they're like, this person has a future here, how do you start to give that person just a little bit to not scare them away running and screaming the opposite direction? Because my goodness, it can get crazy really fast. But how
Yeah.
do you get them enough information and enough access to kind of see behind the curtain without overwhelming them? I'm curious. That's an interesting lead you had in kind of trickling
Mhm.
through.
So I guess from a person who's looking to get into the business, ask lots of questions, and
Hmm.
understand how the business works. So the more you understand about what the day-to-day looks like, the more you can put yourself into their perspective, which opens up a whole different world. So, I can, remember having conversations with our maintenance crew, just understanding, if someone is telling me this, does this make sense? What could they have done? What should they have done? And what do they know that they should be doing?
Hmm.
So, when I look at, sort of understanding brake checks and conversations around whether or not the fifth wheel is connected or not, I have a better idea of what I'm actually talking about, as opposed to just reading down the notes that I asked, and get out there. One of the best things that I did was I went for a ride along with one of our drivers. So you
Mm.
can understand their perspective, what it's like to get to a store and have to wait, or get to a vendor and have to wait for that pickup, what it's like on the road. Cars, don't always understand that a truck carrying, 50,000 pounds doesn't stop in the same way that their Toyota does. And, understanding the driver's perspective of, yes, I had this harsh braking event. The reason why is because this car cut in front of me and then slammed on their brakes.
Yeah.
So you can start to understand, another person's perspective. So definitely walking a mile in their shoes is critical.
And
And
from every role, regardless of operations to being in the truck, would you recommend that somebody do that regardless?
absolutely, absolutely.
Nice.
Again, I've had conversations with our dispatchers, and if we are, looking to get them another load to change, put in their perspective of, if you have to wait for a full day, um, you as an employee, you can go home at the end of the day, you can sleep in your own bed, make supper. If you're down in California, you're sitting in that truck and it's not overly spacious. So what's your perspective on what can you do to help get that driver moving as quickly as possible within the constraints that you have? And
Mhm.
sometimes it might be beneficial for that driver to sit in the dispatch office as well for a day and understand the dispatcher's perspective, because it's not always as easy as some people might think. Um,
Definitely.
in terms of your other question about what can a manager do if they recognize that one, ha recognize that someone has an interest, is have a conversation with them, understand what it is that they're looking for and what's going to work for them, and just try and give them those opportunities as much as you can.
Mhm.
There's so many different opportunities out there. It could just be something small, but when you invest in your colleagues, the investment pays off, innumerably. So
Mm.
really important that we don't just sit back and wait for people to come to us. Not everyone is jumping up and raising their hand. But when you see that opportunity, have that conversation with them. Let them know that you see something in them, and have that career development conversation with them as well.
I like that. Pull it forward, pull it out of them, kind of regardless of where they're sitting. I like the specific what's going to work best for them. Have the conversation and understand why they want what they want and kind of what looks like that for them internally.
Absolutely.
Very good. Well, I'm curious. There are lots of different things that happen in our everyday lives. I think it's challenging. Sometimes even I'll be talking to my husband and he'll be like, "What happened today?" I'll be like, I don't know, like 50 different things. I couldn't even pin down one fun story, but I am curious, is there one specific story that kind of comes with a lesson from within this industry that you're like, wow, that day taught me a lot, or that situation was very eye-opening? Anything specific that comes to mind for you?
Um, I do have a few specific stories. I'm not going to get too much into details
Okay.
on those individuals, but there's been a few of them that have happened over the years. The first thing that's our greatest challenge, typically when something happens with a driver, they're out on the road somewhere. They could be 10 miles down the road, they could be 1,000 miles down the road. And you need to put yourself into their shoes to really understand what it is that they're going through. And also try to help them understand potential constraints that you may have and the abilities that you have. So patience is key. That's always the most important thing. Be patient and keep a humanistic perspective. That's an individual. How would you feel if you were in that situation where, maybe your truck breaks down and the air conditioning isn't working and it's 35 degrees outside? That can be a great challenge, and we want to do whatever we can to support people. It requires you to be very creative. So there's not a set of examples of, here's the situation and here's how you react and here's what you need to do. Yes, you can learn from the different situations that have happened in the past, but sometimes something new will come along and throw you for a loop where you really need to understand, okay, well, what do we need to do and what are the constraints that we have within the situation?
I like that. Every human is a human, regardless of their number. 500 plus drivers. That can be challenging to remember sometimes when you're trying to do what you're doing. You are all quite literally trying to feed the nations, right? Like
Absolutely.
you're putting food on everybody's tables. And so when you're working at such a crazy rate and you want to keep doing that, it can be hard to remember that the people who are doing it are still people. But what would you recommend to perhaps a dispatcher or a driver manager who has something like that happen where the truck breaks down, they're on the side of the road, and they're getting a lot of heat from somebody above them to get the load delivered, but they want to deal with that driver as a human? How would you recommend that they work through that process and come back to the place of being a human themselves before talking to the driver? What would they do in that situation to kind of calm themselves down first?
I think the first thing that I always suggest to the team is, ask the driver how they're doing, making sure that they're in a good place. Sometimes it's just listening and letting them vent a little bit, but ensuring that they're still maintaining a respectful conversation. No matter what's happening to somebody, I still expect that respect is key in these situations. Um, I think it's listening, understanding what the limitations are, and then getting back to them as quickly as possible. Phone calls are great. Don't always rely on an email response. Make sure that you're following up with them in person via
Mm.
phone call and providing them updates as frequently as you can. Sometimes there is an unrealistic expectation that, oh, well, 2 minutes has gone by and I don't have a response yet. They're looking into it. So I think it's just really important to ensure that they're communicating the situation correctly to the next level up, where that's so that they can get the proper response, and we're not having to go back and get more information when we could already have it to begin with, which will just sort of help de-escalate the situation and get it through that much quicker.
Sure, I like that. Patience and then getting all the information you can as you can. So you don't have to kind of
Absolutely.
keep that chain going back and forth forever,
Yes,
which we've all
exactly.
seen far too many times.
Absolutely. And probably been part of it myself as well.
Perhaps this morning, actually,
Yeah.
like that is a regular occurrence. But
Yeah.
oh man, well, thank you for sharing that. I'm curious, how long, do you mind sharing how long you've been in the industry now?
So I've worked for Loblaws for 35 years, and then started in distribution transportation for about 25 of those years.
Oh my gosh. So 25 years in
Yes.
distribution. Is there any specific skill that you feel like you've acquired over that time that you're like, ooh, I got this. It does me really good, and everybody needs to know. And then a resource that would come from that that people can kind of lean into work on that themselves.
It's taken a long time to develop. Patience is still something that is critical, and the ability to listen to people before trying to solve all their issues. There's a quote from Nelson Mandela that I'd heard actually from my boss at one point, and it really resonates with me. And it says, "I never lose. I either win or I learn." So it's really trying to keep that perspective of continual learning. I don't know everything. I joke with people, I know almost everything, but I truly don't. I learn something new every day and have different opportunities every day. So I think always having that mindset of that you want to learn more and actively source that out. So I don't have any great resource in terms of books. I've read, various books around, leadership and, further self-development, etc. And those all you gain something from them. And in my perspective, any session that I've taken or seminar I've gone to, if I can take away one item, then that's a win for me. Not everything is going to resonate with you, but anytime you can learn something new and then actually integrate it into what you do on a regular basis or when you need it, that's a win to me.
Definitely. I think that people go to conferences too regularly and I mean, I do this all the time. I'm a victim of this most certainly, but I'll bring my notebook and I'll be like, I've got 40 pages of notes because I get so excited. I also can't sit still without moving, so I need to take notes and they
Yeah,
accumulate quickly. But I will regularly go through it and I'll be like, I've got so much to go away with and so much to learn. And I get so excited and then all of it just becomes far too much. So I like that. If you can do one, if you can choose one and you can actually truly implement it in what you're working on, that's going to be more effective. But I like that quote a lot. Pardon me, a lot. I never lose. I win or I learn. I think that that's a great resource, regardless, for people.
absolutely.
Is there anything specifically from within that, from with recovery of those lessons, perhaps, that you would suggest to people, someone who's going through like a process or a progress where they're trying to learn something, they're trying to work on something, maybe they have a really big project that they kind of feel like they're losing on. Is there anything that you would say to that person that could kind of help them shift their mentality from a lose to a lesson?
I think it's the the perspective of take a step back, maybe leave it for half a day or a day or whatever you can, and then come back to it with fresh eyes. Have a look and say, what have I learned from this? What are the opportunities, and what can we do to move forward to get even better?
Hmm. Okay. I like that. Big step back, just reevaluation completely.
Absolutely, absolutely. Sometimes you get so far into the weeds that you really can't see the bigger picture of it. And, when you can take that time away from it, or maybe just even, engage somebody else, get their perspective. That can be refreshing that maybe the situation isn't as bad or, things aren't as complicated as what you're making them out to be.
Yeah. Yes, that happens all the time. I'm also a self-proclaimed anxiety person, and so I will spin things to be things that are far greater than anything they need to
Absolutely.
be. But
It can be
sometimes I'll,
very easy to do. It can be very
oh,
easy to do. Yeah.
without a doubt, but that outsider's perspective sometimes will come back and slap you into reality. You're like, right, it's
Yeah.
not that big of a deal. Got
Exactly.
it. Very
Exactly.
good. I like that a lot. All right, well, we're going to flow into the last little segment of this, which I
Mhm.
had a myth for you, and then we're going to talk about some human trafficking safety tips. Let's do the human trafficking safety tip first. You had a really good one. Do you want to share with the crowd?
Absolutely. To me, the most important part is educating people. Even something as simple as the hand signal that someone can share if they are in trouble, and it's just something as simple as this. And educate yourself so that you know what that means. If you see someone trying to reach out to you as you're on the road or you're at, an en route or a truck stop or something along that line, um, educate yourself and then do something about it. So if you see someone that is making that gesture, it's calling the police. It's trying to, not putting yourself in danger, of course. That's also critical. But it's just do something about it. Not saying that we can solve the world's problems this way, but if you can stop one person from having to go through that, to me, again, that's a win.
Yeah.
And then just also for yourself, if you happen to be in a situation of danger, knowing what that hand signal is, and perhaps that could save your own life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm very much, I don't know the word for it right now, but somebody who requires those little sayings, little things in the back of their brain to remember something. And so as you were doing it, I had this one that just popped into my brain. But for anybody who's watching this, if you're ever like, I need to remember that and I don't know how, this is the person, your thumb is the person, and they're stuck and they need help. And so that can be as simple as remembering, just like the person is the thumb and they're in everybody else and they can't get anywhere and they need you. And so I just, as you were saying that, there are some very funny little things that help me remember, and that is important. So if you ever see that signal, that's really valuable. But we'll flow out of that because that is while the most important, the most challenging section of the podcasts, into our myth. We want to debunk some transportation myths. And so my myth for you is that in grocery, drivers can pick up and drop off at their fruition. Is this true? Is this not true? Is this a myth? What do you say?
Definitely not true. The any company requires appointments. If you are picking up product from that location, they have to have it ready for you. Sometimes when we're picking up produce, it is literally getting picked just as the driver's arriving. So that has to be, packaged in some way to be available on the truck, as our goal is to have as fresh a product as possible. The same as that whether or not they're going to pick up, meat or toilet paper. That company has to have it ready, and you're not the only one going there. So as my advice to a driver is, or people to understand that is, there could be many people going there. You need to have appointment times. We try and support as much as we can, but ultimately we're going to a customer, and the customer is the one that can dictate, when things are going to be available. No different than going to a store. We're fortunate. We're delivering, quite frankly, when we're delivering to retail stores, we're delivering to our own stores. So we have a little bit more flexibility, but the reality is sometimes you get to that store and the bread truck arrives early. And if the store's shelves are empty, their priority is going to be making sure that they get that product so that we can sell it to our customers. As Loblaws' primary purpose is to feed Canadians. And we do that every day. Again, it's having patience and understanding that there can be a lot more to it than what you see when you're the one arriving at those locations.
Oh my gosh, without a doubt. There's so many pieces of the puzzles that are coming together.
Absolutely.
No, I didn't tell you I was going to ask you this myth, but just as you were talking about it, I am curious. I know that in the midst of the pandemic, this was very, very popular and people were thinking about this all the time, but toilet paper. Is there always more toilet paper to be delivered? Can people just take it all, or is there reason to share?
Definitely reason to share. I can't speak to the production of the various providers that we have.
Without a doubt.
But ultimately, one company doesn't just go in and take everything. It does have to, that company has multiple customers that they have to serve. No different than you go to a grocery store, you're standing in line, you can't just go up to the front of the line and say, oh, well, I'm going to bypass everybody else. Everybody has to take their turn.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that that's something that people think a lot. I mean, just in regards to Loblaws, that's something that I think about a lot because it was a significant piece of our past. And I've heard so many people who talk about that, and they're like, well, there's always more to be delivered. And as somebody who's stood in a toilet paper manufacturing plant, I'm like, no, they actually have to make that, and then
That's right.
has to get packaged and delivered and put on, and yeah, the whole thing. And so I just, as you were saying that, and you mentioned toilet paper, it piqued my next myth for you. But
That's right.
is there anything that you would like to share with our members at all? Anything left that you're like, this would be really valuable for them, or stories that kind of are left ringing in your brain before we end this off?
Um, I think just, from the perspective of, being in the general public, driving on the road, just remember that there are a lot of trucks out there, but, be patient with them. They can't get up to speed as quickly as we can. They have restrictions. So be patient around trucks. And no different than I encourage our drivers to be impatient amongst drivers, and the general public as well. Transportation has been a fantastic career for me, with the support that I've been able to provide. And I love this industry. I think it's absolutely fascinating. I think the continued growth and opportunities are endless. And, just as a bit of a side note is that it's not gender specific. So there are many opportunities. We have women drivers, not as many as I would like, and we're trying to continue to support having more women come into the industry, and bring them into Loblaws. But there's so many different roles, whether you're in dispatch or management or payroll, accounts payable, all across the board. There's so many different opportunities that isn't set towards that one gender. So it's truly interesting, always learning from it, and it's an industry that's going to continue to evolve. So for the future, who knows what it's going to bring, but I'm really looking forward to it.
Oh, thank you for that. I love that. It is not just for the men. It is most
That's right.
definitely for everybody. So
Yes.
that is perfect. And every role too. I love that you
Yeah,
highlighted that as well across the board. We need you all. Very,
that's
very
right.
good.
That's
Well,
right.
thank you, listeners, for taking some time with Kelly and I. I think there's been lots of really great little tips and tricks throughout this that a lot of people will be able to grab from and learn a little bit from. We will, of course, be back for more episodes. But thank you, Kelly, for joining us. I really, really appreciate you taking some time to share some of your wisdom with our members. And I know that lots of people will take a lot from this. So we will see everybody this fall at our Bridging the Barriers conference. And until then, I'll be back for more episodes next week. But thank you and bye.